Welcome everyone to Illinois Green's virtual home tour. My name is Liz Wimmer and I'm a program manager at the Illinois Green Alliance. 2020 marks the 8th year that Illinois Green has been fortunate enough to partner with great organizations and home project teams to highlight awesome green homes throughout Illinois and Northwest Indiana. We are excited to host our 4th and final session in our GreenBuilt home series today, highlighting both new and renovated homes implementing healthy and high performance measures. Thank you all to those of you that have joined us since week 1 as we hosted sessions featuring all electric homes, deep energy retrofits, and homes that are pursuing or have achieved Passive House certification. We're excited to finish out our GreenBuilt home series with all of you today. But if this is the first time you're tuning in to the series, welcome, and no worries. You don't have to have attended the first 3 sessions to join today. But first, we're just gonna give you guys a little bit of a background about the Illinois Green Alliance to get started. The Illinois Green Alliance is a membership-driven nonprofit that works to promote green buildings and sustainable communities. We believe that green infrastructure is key to strengthening neighborhoods and improving the quality of life for everyone. To move this vision forward, the organization is committed to advancing the latest in technology and design through education programs like this one, advocating for new policies, and conducting community engagement initiatives that involve thousands of volunteer hours from our green building professional community. In fact, the GreenBuilt Home Tour came about from one of our wonderful volunteer initiatives to highlight green home best practices across the state through an annual tour. And we're excited to still have the opportunity to bring the education of this event virtually to all of you this year. Each date during our 2020 GreenBuilt Home Tour series has focused on one of 4 themes: all electric homes, deep energy retrofits, Passive House, and today, wellness and high performance homes. Each web event has allowed you to hear from the building team behind the featured green homes and learn about the latest sustainable home technologies in action. Before we get into today's program, I'd like to thank our partners and sponsors for their support in helping to make this event possible and spreading the word to their networks. Thank you to the Evanston Rebuilding Warehouse, Chicago Association of Realtors, Green Home Institute, Passive House Alliance Chicago, Slipstream, Citizens Utility Board, Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society of Joliet Junior College, the Home Builders Association of Greater Chicago, and a special thank you for the support of the Illinois Science, Energy, and Innovation Foundation. Thank you all to our wonderful partners. And thank you to our event sponsors. We would like to thank our event sponsors for their generous financial support of the GreenBuilt Home Tour series as a whole. A huge thank you to the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, Peoples Gas, North Shore Gas Energy Efficiency Program, Brink Building Products, Build Equinox, Mitsubishi Electric, and Insight Property Services. Today's program features 3 homes, both new and renovated, implementing healthy and high performance measures. The homes are located in Evanston and Oak Park, Illinois, and in Lowell, which is near Crown Point in Northwest Indiana. Everyone has worked so hard to bring you a unique presentation about their home, so please enjoy and ask questions in the Q&A along the way. We'll then get to our moderated Q&A portion of the session where you'll get to meet all of our presenters at around 4:30 Central Time. We will share an event recording and follow-up resources and links in the next few days, just in case you missed anything. So now I'd like to introduce our first home and our first speaker of the day. First, we're gonna check out a tour from Nate Kipnis, FAIA, founder and principal of Kipnis Architecture and Planning. Nate was also the national co-chair of AIA's 2030 Commitment Working Group. His project, the Cool Sustainable Home in Evanston, features a series of techniques and technologies that help it achieve a predicted energy use 40% less than baseline. These features include low global warming these local home warming potential features include exterior insulation, tight energy efficient casement windows, a high efficiency HVAC system combined with an air to air heat exchanger, solar photovoltaic panels, LED lights, exhaust fans on timers, and operable skylights. So Nate, Ashley should have been handing over the controls to you, so you should now have control. And let's take a look at this great home tour now.
All right, well, thanks for having me. It's always a great pleasure and honor to be part of the GreenBuilt home tour. I think I've been on every time, and really something I look forward to. You guys do a great job with it. The house I'm going to speak about is a home for a young couple, their first home in Evanston, and new construction. And so we were combining healthy wellness with high performance and a little bit of resilient design as well, but we wanted to have fun with this project. So you can see here the white mass on the, I think you can see my mouse. Oh, no, you can't. But the white cube house over the front, which actually cantilevers over the front porch, that's the meditation room. And that same mass got picked up and thrown into the backyard for the garage, and that's where the solar panels are. Let's see. So I just want to talk a little bit about our office. We do primarily high performance residential work. We have an office in Boulder, Colorado now, and so we do work locally, but also over there and in some other areas. Most of these homes are either super high performance and low energy, and a lot of them integrate wellness and resilient design. The house in the middle of the right is an eco retreat that's in Scotland that we're just starting to work on. The one in the bottom right is one in the mountains in Boulder. This site is just west of, on the western edge of Evanston, and it was a very tricky site. You can see the red outline is the site, and the way they figure the front yard setback is by averaging the adjacent homes' front setbacks. Well, there's nothing to the right, and to the left are two houses that go way back. So we had to get a zoning variance just to make this a normal house, which was a little unfortunate. This is the site plan that we ended up with. So we had to adjust a setback. We did get that front yard setback, and then we had to work within the constraints of everything else. So we did get another variance because the garage is further forward to the street than the house, which is not common. But we liked that for the yard space that provided. The floor plan is a pretty straightforward design. This is because it's, I'm not going to say it's affordable, but it's attainable. And so we had to be very smart on how we were designing it. You can see in the den in the front area of the house, there's that dotted line that's running up and down. That's actually the ceiling of the same material that's clad on that house-like cube space that's the meditation room. So the ceiling of that actually goes into the dining room. On the first floor, den, dining, kitchen, and then a step down to the family room. There's skylights above the family room. And then we have a mud room and a powder room. On the second floor are 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, but that meditation room is set up to be an additional bedroom by just adding a wall and then filling in the half wall that surrounds the stairs. So pretty functional layout and expandable for them. And then in the basement, we have an additional bedroom and a full bath with storage, laundry, a den, and a good size mechanical. Those 3 long rectangles under the mechanical note there, the room name, those would be for battery backups. There's one actually that was installed. They can install other ones as need be. What we were trying to do with this home is to make it all electric. And this was not easy to pull off. ComEd has a nice program with a $2,000 incentive to get that to happen. We ended up doing absolutely everything on here but the air source heat pump. So we ended up with a very high efficiency forced air natural gas system, It was not our first choice, but it's just the reality of the project. We couldn't get that to work. And I'm going to show you some energy modeling that explain the difference of what could have been versus what we ended up with. Still a very high performance home. It's just obviously if we could have gone all electric with the air source heat pump, we would have been in a much better shape from that standpoint. And by the way, that program's still valid, I think, until the end of this year. So the things we did do was to include an induction cooktop. When you're doing a really tight home from a health standpoint, if you put a natural gas cooktop in, you're just spewing exhaust, CO2, and other toxins into the home. So we really did not want to have that happen. We have an air source hybrid water heater that takes heat out of the air and then uses that for the hot water and then expels cold air. And we also have an air source hybrid dryer. So those are the four things. These are three of the four things that typically natural gas is used for. And that fourth one is the HVAC system. This is what we would have wanted to do, which is a ducted mini split system. Very high efficiency. The coefficient of performance on these can be up to 3. The outdoor unit that we would have had is shown on the right. This is the system that we've been using in a lot of the homes that we have been building where we are all electric. And then we have this connected, obviously, with a smart thermostat. The house was sheathed with a zip system, and you can see this shows that projected meditation room and how that's hanging over the front. And the garage was set up that way as well. The garage has the solar panels on it. There's room for additional panels on the main roof as well. So we don't have 100%, but we are part of the DOE's Net Zero Ready program. I should point out Brightleaf was the general contractor on this, and they've done a great job. One of the interesting things is because of the constraints on the budget, we were looking at other ways to insulate. Our normal way of doing insulation is to do 2 inches of rigid insulation on the outside, and then we do furring strips with siding on that. And then inside we would do a 2x6 wall with 5.5 inches of cellulose in there or rock wool. In this case, we couldn't afford to do the exterior insulation, so we found a system called the Mooney wall. It's really quite interesting. So it's a 2x6 wall with 2x2s running perpendicular to the 2x6s. So if you look on this picture on the right, you see these little red squares. That's the intersection where we have points of contact where you could have a thermal bridge, very small areas. So if you just had 2x6s, you'd have that whole 1.5 inch by the 8 foot tall or 9 foot tall area of the 2x. In this case, we just have a few little spots. So you see on the right, on the left, that's the stairwell that has that framing before it was insulated. And then this is with the insulation, and so that covers it all up except for the little 2x2s. So I think that's a really interesting system. So not only does that minimize the potential thermal bridging, but it also gives us an extra 1.5 inches of insulation. So we end up with 7 inches instead of 5.5 for the dense insulation that we were using. These are some of the key stats on the project. I'm not going to read all of the insulation ones. This is not to passive house standards. This is a step down from that, but I still think it's really good insulation levels. We used the Sierra Pacific H3 windows, which we really like. And we got the ACH 50 down to 1.14. We used Aero Barrier. This was the first time we've ever used it. And I'm going to explain that in a little more detail in a second. The energy use intensity was 22,000 kBTU per square foot per year. That's a 56% reduction from baseline. We could have been pretty close to the 70% that the 2030 commitment shooting for had we done the mini splits. It's a 3.7 kilowatt solar array with an 8.55 kilowatt battery backup system. That battery, just for reference, and again, we can put these in series so we can get, we can start adding to that. But, you know, like a typical electric car might have, you know, might have anywhere from a 40 kilowatt to a 100 kilowatt battery. So just for reference, that's the size of that particular initial battery size. But I have to say, we pre-wire for battery backup all the time. This is the first house that we've had with a modern battery system. We did one house maybe 14 years ago with 5 200-pound lead acid batteries. That was very different, incredibly expensive system, $50,000 back then. This is much easier to maintain, much less expensive. So that's the way we like to see this, and we know that the price of batteries is dropping logarithmically right now. The garage is wired for EV charging, and there's 3 third-party certifications that are currently pending: Energy Star, the DOE's Zero Net Ready, and the EPA's Indoor Air Plus. And the Indoor Air Plus one, the areas that you look at are the moisture control, the radon control, pests, the HVAC system, the combustion pollutants, and low and no VOC materials. So we are taking care of all of that. This is showing the aero barrier system. Really neat. So many of you might have heard of the aero seal system, which is for ductwork. This blows that same system throughout the house. So you prep the house, you cover up the openings, you cover up the windows, and then you spray it, and the blower door is going while you're doing this. So you see this on the chart on the right here, and you can see it dropping over time, and you get charged per minute. So it's kind of like being in an Uber or something, and you just tell them, stop, that's good, we're happy with that for the price. So this is showing the before and after on the air change. So we had 3.46 air changes per hour, and we brought that down to 1.14, all in about 3 hours. This next image is showing the battery backup, the EV charging, and the ERV system. When you do a tight house like this, it's really imperative to have fresh air brought in a controlled fashion. The battery backup is from Generac. They bought another company, and now they're starting to do that. So that's the company you sometimes see with gas-powered backup systems. So these handle seconds, minutes, and hours of backup, not necessarily days worth of power, but most power outages are seconds, minutes, or hours. So I think this is really great. With a healthy interiors, we want to have a continuous surface. One-piece countertops are the best. Lever handles are the best. And touchless faucets. So that's what we have. This is under construction. They're going to be moving in about a week and a half. So I know a lot of the homes that have been shown are completed. Here's the energy analysis. And we had a 22 for the EUI. If we had done the mini splits, you can see at the bottom, it would have been a 16. So that's a huge jump down in performance. These other 2 are the same type of systems, but without the PV systems. So here's the actual house. I took this a couple days ago. Again, they're moving in very, very shortly. You can see the garage with the solar panels. You can see the panel exterior cement fiberboard system on there. And then there's stone on the upper right picture. That's actually cement fiberboard stone. So there's not actual stone on this home. We're really happy with it, and that's the home design. The additional solar panels could be on the flat roof section over the second floor. So that's it, and I look forward to the questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nate, for sharing the story behind the cool, sustainable home. I know we're already getting some questions for you inside the chat about a lot of the unique features that you had implemented in the home. So if you haven't already, definitely make sure to add your questions for Nate in the Q&A, and we will make sure to take those on during the facilitated Q&A after all of our presenters have finished. So now we're going to go on to our next presenter here for our next healthy and high performing home. It's brought to us by Larry Ponziano. Larry brought his 20+ years of experience and lessons learned at Innovative Homes Northwest, Inc. when he set out to build his own home. The House of the Rising Sun in Lowell, Indiana is made entirely from locally sourced, 85% recycled light gauge steel framing. And this double envelope structure features nearly no petroleum-based insulation while using physics to create minimal thermal bridging. The heating, cooling, domestic hot water, and dehumidification are provided by a unique air-to-liquid heat pump system, and the solar PV system ensures a net zero energy residence with ample energy to comfortably power the home, garage, and electric vehicle. Larry, I'm going to turn it over to you to share your personal story as the builder and homeowner. Actually, you should have handed over the controls, so hopefully you can start whenever you're ready.
Well, hello, everybody. Can somebody let me know if my video is up?
You're looking good, Larry.
Okay, because I cannot see my video. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for allowing me to present here. So this particular home is 2,200 square feet of living space, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, all on 1 level. And I'm going to rapid fire go through several shots as I've gone. Why build net zero? No electric bill, no gas bill, no water bill, no sewer bill. So something very attractive to myself. And really the most primary reason was to have the best indoor air quality I could possibly have for a healthy, long-lasting, robust home. So site preparation, I had to remove several trees so I could get the solar insulation, and I had to bring a road in, and just thought I'd share with you some of the trials and tribulations of going through that. When it came to the foundation, moisture management is critical. And so there's a drain tile with a traditional drain tile for bulk water removal, 4 inches of expanded polystyrene on the outside, and on the inside, all of the mechanical that was put inside this overdug slab insulation. And then we added 3/4 inch clean stone, a second drain tile system for moisture and radon mitigation, as well as 8 inches of foam and a 1/2 inch tube that went every 18 inches throughout for heating the home with propylene glycol. A 15 mil vapor barrier, which was overlapped and taped for all the penetrations. And then another 2-inch barrier for a thermal break where the concrete was poured and yielding a very isolated thermal foundation. So why is steel construction? I built this out of steel. It is fire resistant, mold resistant, insect resistant, made with about 70% recycled locally made steel with superior moisture management and a very ultra strong long life cycle, probably several hundred years. There's a double wall with a thermal break in between. The outer wall is a 2x6 16 gauge steel light gauge, and the inner wall is a 20 gauge. So I have 12 inches of insulation for an R45 in the wall. The whole assembly might be a little bit more closer to about R50. And there's lateral bracing in that exterior wall instead of relying on plywood because I didn't want to use any wood. And we site built, these are welded trusses. I had a welder do the trusses. And we have about 34 inches of insulation in that ceiling. We had a custom made gusset made to connect the 2 halves. The inside of the entire structure uses a semi-permeable membrane, which is vapor selective. It actually opens up on a molecular level when the moisture inside that cavity reaches 70%. So it will discourage any liquid water from ever forming inside the cavity. And that's throughout the whole process. And on top of the roof, instead of plywood, I used a fabric called Mento Plus, and it is also vapor open, but liquid tight and airtight. A metal standing seam roof with 1 7/8 space with that hat section, no penetrations, everything is attached using brackets. The solar system, which is also attached without penetrations, uses a pinch type of clamp called an S5 with a set screw. And the exterior, you can see we used a dense glass product, which is a commercial gypsum-based product with fiberglass on each side, It really doesn't have any structural value, but it gave me something as a foundation to put an air seal across the whole structure. And some details of as we went. This is the heating and cooling system that's basically 1-inch poly pipe, all insulated within that cavity. Everything is taped. As we go, some of the details for sealing on the eave, and this is a little bit more of the detail, a bit of a difficult, or I should say different way to do it, but it worked really well once we got the technique down pat. So the windows were a triple glazed low E argon product. I got them from Europe, very economical compared to the American. It's hard to believe, but it was less money to buy a European window than most American high performance windows. I'm not sure what happened, but we lost our slideshow. The door also is European. All of my mechanicals, I kept a photographic record of all the mechanicals in the house. If there's ever a problem, I can go back in and fix them up. Some of the details again of air sealing. I'd use brick for the exterior and some limestone, which was comes from out of Wisconsin. Some of the tape details around the windows and doors and all the penetrations. This is the kind of the heart of the mechanical system. The domestic hot water, the heating, and the cooling are all achieved through a liquid to air to liquid heat pump system with a coefficient of performance on some of the best days of about 6, and on some of the worst days it would go down to 1, but my average is about 2.7. This is the indoor coils. I have 5 of them, 1 in each bedroom, 1 in the living room, 1 in the dining room, and that's how I achieve my cooling, dehumidification. This is the outdoor unit. It's 3 tons of heating and 2 tons of cooling, which is more than enough, and it also does my domestic hot water, a very unique system. This is the Zender heat recovery, enthalpy recovery ventilation system. I have continuous ventilation. I extract air from the bathrooms, kitchen, and laundry room 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The unit on the right is a geothermal unit, which preheats and pre-cools, and it works fantastic. Right now I'm running, I'm only using about 18 watts an hour. This is some of the air distribution that's buried in the walls, and I left some of it exposed so people could see it. This is the geothermal loop. It has 12 gallons of glycol running through it, and it just uses the earth as a heat sink. There's no refrigeration involved in this preheat, pre-cool system. It works fantastic. This is an example. It was 90.1 degrees out the other day, and I was bringing in air at 70 degrees with some substantial dehumidification. I'm getting about 10 pints a day out of that part of it alone. This shows the dew point at 77, and if you look back, I was down to 70 degrees, so we were dehumidifying for free. These are actual numbers. I was using the ERV at 70 CFM. I was removing 4.3 pounds of water per hour. This was just 3 days ago. So traditional looking interior, there's a kitchen and laundry room, tall ceilings in every room of the house except 1 bathroom in the laundry room. A lot of glass on the south side with a 3-foot overhang gives me protection from that direct sunlight in the summertime, but it allows the sunlight in the winter for passive solar, which it works fantastic. Bedroom has tall ceilings. The bathroom also has tall ceilings. This is an example of a day at 22 degrees below zero, January of 2019, and we still maintain 70 degrees inside the house. This is an example of a day where it was cold outside at 0, and I had the heat set for 65, so it didn't turn on, and I was 70 degrees inside. And that's the solar, passive solar gain, not using any active solar system, just sunny days giving us nice warmth in the wintertime when the sun is low on the horizon. Here's an example of free cooling in the summertime. This is at night, at 11 o'clock at night, it was 78 degrees outside still, and the indoor temperature was 72 degrees, just because of the ERV mostly. This is the garage or barn, and this is where I have my solar systems. The system on the ground is a vacuum system for hot water, which I do not use in the house. I do use it in the garage, but those panels on the roof are 13.5 kilowatts for the house and the barn. Some natural lawn, so I don't have as much maintenance. Some formal garden area. But more importantly, I'm controlling stormwater using swales and rocks. And it works real well. I have no standing water anywhere near the house. And the ERV, the intake is up on that gable end. You can see there's an intake and exhaust. And south-facing windows for all the solar gain again. This is a 13-month usage history. I've gone now 17 months without a gas bill or electric bill, and I have no water bill because I'm a private well and I'm on a septic. So the last month it shows I used 799 kilowatts of energy, but I have in the bank, this is showing I have a credit right here at $951.76 a credit. My utility does not give me money, but they give me future credits. So I added a hot tub, and electric vehicle is going to be back on the horizon. I did have one for a while, but I chose to continue driving my Prius for a little while longer. Here's another project I did that's very similar, a few blocks away, and this one's been net zero for 5 years now. And that's about it.
Thank you so much, Larry. We really appreciate you participating in this year's tour. And I know because we can't be in person, all of those pictures and visuals really help to get a good idea, almost like we're walking through your home and seeing the construction take place. So we're glad to have you on today's tour. And thank you again. Please make sure to share your questions for Larry in the Q&A, and we'll get back to you there or during the facilitated Q&A. Next up, we've got our final tour of the day from Carol Jackson, who's the owner of Building Solutions, Inc. and the homeowner, and Michael Gold, who is the lighting designer and sustainability consultant on this project. And they're going to give us the tour of the home Sustainability with Style in Oak Park, Illinois. Sustainability with Style is a careful balance between energy conservation, aesthetics, and practicality through efforts of preservation for sustainable repurposing of this historic home. The projects in this home included reusing and reconditioning the radiators and adding new energy efficient boilers and ceiling fans to circulate air 3 seasons of the year. Energy was increased and power consumption decreased through Energy Star rated appliances, LED and motion activated lighting, and programmable thermostats. So let's check out Carol and Michael's home tour now. Carol and Michael, you should have control. I think Ashley handed that over to you. So whenever you guys are ready, you're free to get started.
Great. Well, thank you, Liz and Ashley. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here today. My name is Carol Jackson. I'm owner of Building Solutions. Building Solutions has been developing property for resale and leasing since 1988 in the Chicagoland area, and we're now doing work in Florida. I'm an architectural designer and real estate developer, landlord, and a realtor with degrees in both architecture and business administration. We all know that sustainable buildings are our future. As with this project today, I'm actively implementing sustainable building practices in my projects here in Chicago and in Florida as well going forward. The Green Home Tour has presented many versions of sustainability that are truly inspiring. The project that we're presenting here today, called Kenilworth, is about historic preservation. It's about reusing and repurposing. It's also about implementing what we call best practices. We did not apply for LEED certification with this project, but a lot of our best practices were LEED credit worthy. Using sustainable practices, we reuse many things to retain Kenilworth's historic character, feel, and appeal, while bringing it up to current codes and modern standards. We also repurposed the layout of Kenilworth, changing the function of many of the rooms. The what, first of all, is about reusing and repurposing. It's not new to this property since it was originally built in Oak Park and moved to its current location several decades ago. This is the latest iteration for this place. If you note in this picture, I'm standing in the front lobby. You'll see this again a bit later. These doors were actually up on the 3rd floor. We brought them down to the 1st floor to reuse them for the front hall closet. The floors, we were told by many flooring people, they had to be torn out and redone because they were thin, old. We found someone that could do them. You can see that they're gorgeous. We did not take out the old. Same thing with the radiators. There's a story there to be told, and my partner Michael will go into that in more detail later. Something I do in my design practice is that I work closely with clients to understand their styles and their taste preferences. So this being my own home, I blended contemporary artwork, contemporary furnishings within the historic design elements of the structure itself. And we retained crown moldings, many of the old features. We're very pleased to have been recognized back in 2018 for this preservation project. It was given the Oak Park Historic Preservation Committee Award for Sustainability. And what I'm particularly proud of is that it says, quote, done with careful attention and respect for the original character of the building and for Oak Park's architectural heritage. I'm proud of that and appreciate their recognition. So to get on with the where of this project, Kenilworth is in the Pleasant Home Historic District of Oak Park. And of course, Oak Park is a village that takes great pride in its heritage with many architecturally significant buildings from multiple areas. This just gives you an idea of our location, which again is very lead worthy. This is Lake Street, the main downtown street. We're only a couple blocks away right here. 1 block away is Frank Lloyd Wright's Unity Temple. We're also close 2 blocks to the metro station, 3 blocks to the metro station, 2 blocks to the Green Line. And I've had guests and Airbnb guests and tenants that have stayed at this property without any car at all and gotten along just fine. Let's start talking a little bit about the how of what we did. You'll hear us mention in our project that our modus operandi is minimize disruption, maximize impact, and do it sustainability with style. This is a picture of the exterior. Because we preserved a neglected building, our approach was a little bit different than some of the other projects in this program, but not unlike the other projects, we too had to tighten our building envelope. For us, tightening our building envelope began by replacing all of the windows on all 3 floors of the project with locally sourced windows. We minimized the disruption by maintaining all of the existing window openings, no changes, so we didn't have to deal with changing framing, stucco, plaster on the inside. In addition, we sealed all the major openings in the exterior by adding insulation to the roof and walls where feasible. We sealed all the cracks in the stucco, and we repaired all of the wood trim and gables. If you note in this before picture, our friends, some squirrels and birds had burrowed into the attic up here and made our house their home for a while. To move on to the interior, again, we kept in mind this minimize disruption, maximize impact with what we were doing. So what you see here in the black, existing exterior walls, the brown, existing interior walls, and the green are the new walls that we built. We dramatically repurposed this level of the home by adding only 17 linear square feet of new walls. And that's up here in the front and back here in the back. These 17 feet allowed us to create a true master bedroom suite with a master bath off one side and a new master closet off of the other. We then took some of the living area and repurposed that into an energy efficient, stylish, and updated open kitchen. Just in a little more detail, this is that front hall and master bathroom. This area previously was, first of all, wasted space, and then these miscellaneous odd-shaped closets. And by recapturing that space and repurposing it, it allowed us to do what you can see on the right as a really nice looking master bath. So at this point, I'd like to just show you a few of the before and after pictures of this home. Another side view of the exterior. This picture on the left is the old kitchen, and that is actually the area that became the master closet. This picture on the upper right is the area that we turned into the kitchen, which is in the lower right. And if you notice in this picture, this French door, we actually reused, and our carpenter helped us recreate this trim that matched the rest of the trim throughout the home. The wood floor in this picture is actually that thin 3/4 inch hardwood that I'm so glad we were able to save, because it has a gorgeous patina to it. Before and after of the kitchen. Believe it, the before is on the left, the after is on the right, and Michael will explain more about how we brought this bathroom back to its more original vintage appearance. This doorway is going off of the master bedroom. We opened this up to go into the old kitchen. And then again, our carpenter actually recreated this crown molding to match the existing. He was a wonderful craftsman, and we did this type of work many places in the house. We reused an old door we found in the attic, and I scrounged through boxes of old glass and porcelain doorknobs, had them cleaned up, and reuse those as well. In addition to items from the house itself, we went out to Reuse Depot, which is a reuse store out in our area. And I've learned that if you go to a local source for reuse items, you'll often find items that were taken out of homes similar to yours. We were fortunate that we could get doors that actually match the home. Living room, old windows that were mismatched, we matched them up. Finished picture. And at this point, I'd like to turn things over to Michael Gold, who will go into more of our plumbing our HVAC, plumbing, and electrical work on the place. Michael?
Good afternoon. I'm going to talk about a little more about the how of what we did. My name is Michael Gold. I'm going to share our min-max approach to updating, preserving, and reusing components of our major building systems. Again, unlike the great houses that you saw that have all these energy, wonderfully energy efficient components and a whole different strategy, ours is taking what we had, minimizing disruption, maximizing the impact, and preserving a home with a lot of style. So let's go with the HVAC system. We creatively and rather effectively managed our heat and airflow. Out went the old ineffective radiator covers, which we actually resold. People bought radiator covers. Leaving these amazing radiators that we cleaned, painted, and totally refurbished. And by the way, removing 5,000 pounds of cast iron is not a task that anybody really wants to take on. Both boilers were replaced with high-efficiency models, and the result is duct-free and dust-free convection heating throughout the building. The new brass valves, as you see here, they give us our own unique version of zone heating, and even the radiator system that we have programmable thermostats. For cooling, the unit is primarily cooled in the summer months with fresh air and ceiling fans. And on the occasions when we do need more, voila, a few well-placed window AC units combined with the high ceilings and the natural airflow, the unit is extremely cool and comfortable. Carol's office has a 5,000 BTU unit, as does the bedroom, and a 10,000 BTU unit in the living room, and it really works well. On the left, we were talking about the different bathrooms. On the left is what we call the retro bathroom, and the center and right are the metro bathroom that is part of the master suite. Since this was the first floor, we ran the plumbing from the basement, again, minimizing disruption, including the hookups for our Energy Star rated washer-dryer, stack washer-dryer combo. We also installed dual flush toilets, low-flow faucets, and shower heads. Both the sink and the shower heads were, again, reused. We reused so many things in this place. The new sink that you see here was actually probably the original sink from the property. We found it sitting back between the garages, between our property and the neighbor's property. It fits in perfectly and it looks great. Well, Carol selected the toilet here to also match because of the lines here on the tank kind of match the lines up there, and in general, it just fits in really well with the look of the bathroom. The medicine cabinet, back to the medicine cabinet, that became a little pet project for me. I rewired it, painted it, and installed LED light sticks in there so that we're continuing on with our sustainable actions. And that's a good segue into the lighting and electrical systems. There is no better system than the electrical system when you're talking about minimizing disruption. On homes as is vintage, it is replace what is needed. Upgrade the service panels as necessary, and absolutely, we added new circuits for both major appliances and for new uses like the wireless routers and modems, and for our lighting improvements. All of the input from AT&T comes in here. We have a plug there to plug in the modem and routers. Speaking of lighting, our lighting methodology is light the task, light the vertical, and then light the ambient. So, for example, the fixture here on the left inside the metro bathroom, it's a gimbaled LED spotlight. Its task is to light the piece of art on the vertical wall. At night, and it only uses 2.5 watts. This becomes a really cool night light, and it's a very impressive look for the room when only that light is lit. Moving to the kitchen, again, the tasks. We have under cabinet lighting for food prep and for cooking. Moving up to the ceiling lights here are not just like in many cases of the old downlights, we're not lighting the floor. We're lighting the fronts of the cabinets. That's what you notice the way they're placed, and we're hitting areas like this corner. Instead of having a dull, dark corner, you're able to really bring depth into the room. The clear bell-shaped fixture here, it's lighting it's asking a task light. The task it's lighting is dining, and it also provides some ambient light for the rest of the room. And finally, the fixture here to the right is actually a piece of artwork as well as being a light, and it lights up this dark, otherwise would be somewhat of a dark corner. One of the things about the methodology that we're using here, this applies to whether it's a retrofit or new lighting. It's really, really important to, again, light the task, light the vertical, light the ambient, and use fewer fixtures and be more energy efficient. Here's I guess I call this an upgrade opportunity. And whether you're if you have some of these simpler things that even if you're not doing major upgrades to your house, we eliminated 150 watt glare bomb, I like to call it, on the front porch, and replaced it with, again, a reused fixture or reused chandelier. Trying to get a really good picture of light. A light fixture is kind of difficult to do. Each of these have only 1.5 watt bulbs. Long story short, it uses only 5% of the wattage that the other fixture use. Annual savings of $41.61 if you're going to be using it for 8 hours a night. I encourage everybody to look for opportunities like this when you're doing your upgrades and retrofits. Even if someone isn't doing major remodeling or renovating, there are these tangible, low-cost, sustainable solutions that help make these incremental improvements. And I'm going to especially talk about one, which is the motion-activated light with the LED-based motion-activated light. A lot of these older homes have these pull chain fixtures. If you want to remove that fixture and use the location, oftentimes people are going to go to the money, the disruption, and install the switch. Well, if you have the motion mounted, if they have the motion detection fixture, you don't have to do that. And if you're talking about going into a closet, as soon as you go in, the light comes on. And as soon as you leave, the light goes off. Whoops. Let's go back up. Okay, I'm going to run through the rest of these real quickly. Again, these tangible, sustainable solutions that anybody could do, whether you just want to do some sustainability in your home, or whether you're doing major retrofits. Ceiling fans. The ceiling fans in this house are great. The amount of air movement we have, we get our fresh air the old-fashioned way. We open the windows and we turn on the fans. Programmable thermostats. We've already talked about that. Dimmer switches. Dimmer switches for your LED lights, by all means, and make sure that your switches are compatible with the lights. The old switches, the old rheostat switches, are not compatible with LED fixtures. Energy Star appliances, everybody knows that. Here's something that, again, adds something incremental. This is a smart power strip. And in home offices and entertainment centers, even when your items are not in use, you're still having a power draw when they go into their mode. So this is used to decrease the draw that they have. And again, another quick hit here. Anybody can do this. Install your your low flow shower heads and faucets.
Thank you, Michael and Carol. I think we're going to have to wrap it up here, and we'll make sure to take some more questions in the Q&A. I know those are a lot of really great solutions that people can actually do in their existing homes. So we totally love all of those tangible options. And that's what the GreenBuilt Home Tour always aims to highlight. So thank you guys so much for sharing your home. And then that's a perfect segue to our Climate Action Ambassador. I'd like to introduce you all to one of Illinois Green's awesome volunteers, Scott Taransky. Scott is a volunteer in Illinois Green Alliance's Climate Action Ambassadors Program. He's going to share a few tips about what steps you might be able to take in your own home to start on a journey to explore energy efficiency, smart devices, and EVs. Also, don't forget to add your questions for Carol and Michael into the Q&A, and we'll be getting to that shortly. But I'm going to hand it over to Scott to share some more tangible things that you can do in your own home. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you very much. Well, as was said, we like to, at the end of all of these, maybe you can't do an entire renovation on your house. You just are looking for some small steps. So every single one of these, we focus on a few steps that you can do to help reduce your impact on climate. So some of these were actually touched on earlier in the section. In fact, Mike just talked about a bunch of them recently. So one of the things you can do, imagine you had your wallet and you don't get to spend some of the money. It just suddenly gets taken out every couple months. You know, money's just disappearing. Maybe like if you had kids. The power strips, when you're plugged into the wall, they are still taking power. Even if your computer is not turned on, even if your lamp is not turned on, even if your microwave, it still takes power to show the clock and all these different features. Many of these we just keep plugged in because the cords are ugly and we want them hidden behind the desk. So one thing that you can do is you can get these plugs that stop the phantom purge from your device. It doesn't draw power when you're not using it. You saw it on the last slide, the power cord that had multiple spots. These right here in the middle of the picture have a timer, so you can time when they go on and off. Again, reducing the need and the impact that you've had. Also, you can get a smart thermostat. You might have seen these throughout the presentations. They show you how much energy you're saving. If you change your temperature by 2 degrees, turn it up in the summer and down in the winter, you're going to have significant savings. The winter is easier because obviously you just put on more layers, but if you implement some of the strategies you've seen, you also, what's nice with a smart thermostat, is that let's say, well, not now because of COVID, but let's say both of you don't work from home, your wife and you, or you and your spouse don't work from home. There's no need to be cooling the house the entire time you're home. You can set these so that they go off an hour before you get home. And so your house is cool when you get home, but then you're not wasting all this energy keeping it cool all day. You can see a lot of these you can access from your cell phone and change it right then. Oh, I forgot to adjust the thermostat, I forgot to adjust that. And you can fix it while you're home or not home. So this is a really big savings that you can do on your house, and they learn, as you probably saw, they adjust. So there's a big benefit to the smart thermostats adding to your home. Not every home can do it. I know my current house, we can't have them, but I do know that they have a lot of really good benefit, and you can tell a friend how very cool they are. So, and finally, electric vehicles. This is a big one. Obviously, we all want to have an electric vehicle, but to do that, we need the infrastructure. You want to be able to have spots where you can charge. I noticed that a Jewel by my house recently, they now have chargers. They're starting to pop up. You need the infrastructure in place, though. We need to make it so that this is more common, so there's not just two, so that there's plenty, so that every company you go to, they have the charging stations ready to go. And so this is something we can advocate, even if you can't afford an electric vehicle now. If you're advocating for it, if you're talking to your municipality about it, we start getting these added in. We can get this so that the electric cars are more common, and that lowers down the price so that next time you're buying a car, there's a lot more infrastructure. I know a lot of cities are doing this. The smaller suburbs may not so much, smaller towns. So let's advocate for it. Let's start moving towards those. If you can't if your town doesn't have anything, a hybrid also offers an option. I know it was mentioned one of the houses has an electric vehicle. I know another one said that they had a Prius, which again saves you some money so that you're not going to the gas pump every few seconds. So these are, again, just a few of the tips. We showcase some different ones on each of the different green home build tours. I know in the past we've talked about heat pumps and water energy savings. So go back and check out some of those other ones too, because there's a lot of good tips. And again, the whole point is you may not be able to do a whole renovation, but you might be able to do some smaller things, and the smaller things do add up over time.
Thank you so much, Scott. Those are really great tips, and definitely appreciate a lot of the connections to what our home participants have shared on today's presentations and tours. So thank you for sharing those great resources with us. We'll be sharing the tips with all of you in the program follow-up email as well. So now we've finally made it to our Q&A. Thank you all for sharing your questions with us throughout the presentation. I think our moderator might be running a little bit behind today, so I'm actually going to kick it off today with some questions for all of our presenters. So just to maybe start off with a few for Nate, our first home, there's some questions about your battery backup system. So I think you started talking about, can you share some more information about the size of the battery backup system that you put into the home and what battery you decided to spec for that home and why?
Yeah, so that question might have been prior to when I talked about it, but it's that Generac 8.55 kilowatt battery. And again, it's set up so you can add more as you get funds for that, or as the price comes down, or however you want to do it. I think you're going to see more and more of that. You know, we strongly suggest pre-wiring every project because this is the future. You know, to have solar with the battery backup is the way to go. But that is not, if you're interested in getting days of backup, that's where you're going to need multiple and big and expensive. And right now, that's a tough economic proposition, but it will do seconds, minutes, and hours of backup. And that's really, I think that's the more normal way to think about it.
Thanks, Nate. Kind of to go on some of those like all electric homes and or almost all electric homes and net zero and efforts that you've been working on, Larry. Can you talk a little bit more about your ROI on your home for the entire project, considering that you've had 17 months of no utility bills? Maybe just kind of start off with that. It looks like you're muted. Okay.
Well, the ROI can be a difficult number to get accurate, but I'll give you my best numbers. My house cost $161 to build per square foot for the house itself. That includes no profit, and I did the heating and air, the electric, and the painting myself, and the landscaping. So I just want to be fair. I compare that house to the house I lived in prior, and the cost of energy at the previous years that I've used, and I come out with 10 years and 5 months return on investment based on the energy that I'm saving. However, sorry about that, I have to turn off the telephone. So at 10 years and 5 months, that included me building a house a little bit different. It's an all brick exterior, and it is it's a double steel wall, which is something I've never done before. So I don't know if I'm making this more complicated than it has to be, but for solar alone, just savings on electric and gas, because I'm all electric, my return on investment with the 30% tax credit is 6 years and 4 months. If I take the whole house with the double wall, the extra insulation, the triple glazed glass, and I've also did some other things that are kind of heroic. I mean, there's no drywall in this house. There's no paper. There's no wood except the cabinets, and they are CARB 2 certified, no formaldehyde, no VOC paint on all the walls. All those things cost a little bit more money. So my return on investment using 2 different methodologies was 15 years and 4 months on one method. And my actual number, I think, is about, that was because I tried to compare it to a traditional built wood house compared to a steel house without the vaulted ceilings and the triple glazed glass. So my number is 10 years and 7 months it is actually.
Awesome. Thanks, Larry, for diving into that. I know that helps us to get a better idea of, what that really looks like. I was wondering, Carol and Michael, can you talk a little bit more about, where you were able to reuse the different materials? And I know you mentioned the reuse depot and how that can be important for those who are doing some of their own home renovations. Oh, you're muted.
Sure, I'd love to take that. As Reuse Depot was one really good source. There are other sources around the city that collect salvage materials from old houses. That was one good source for doors, door hardware. They have some bath fixtures, light fixtures. And what I found is if you go to a source that's close to your project, often you'll find similar styling because people that have been doing demo take it to the closest location. So we did that. As Michael mentioned, there was a sink out in the garage. I've had some things that I've just liked the style of and have kept them in storage, brought those out when a project is appropriate. We ended up reusing some older light fixtures, putting in LED bulbs. Trim is a good thing that you can reuse, find locally. So I would encourage everyone to get creative, and before you first go into a house and say, I have to throw everything out and start over, just think what you could possibly use that can be reused, repurposed.
Thanks, Carol. And I know there's a couple of others around the Chicago area too. There's the Rebuilding Exchange. And Nate, I know in one of your past projects that we featured on the tour, didn't you use the Evanston Rebuilding Warehouse?
A lot. That was an all U.S. all-American material. Very tough to do that. But yeah, we went there quite a bit.
Awesome. Well, I want to ask a question of all of you because we are also talking about health and wellness in our theme today. So if maybe Nate, you can start off, but specifically as they pertain to the materials and systems, how have you focused on health and wellness in your products? And have you documented the selected finishes and indoor air quality systems? Are those available for these projects?
Yeah, so, and there was a question on here. Yes, we were the ones for the Indoor Air Plus certification. It's actually, if you're doing a high performance home, that checklist is not very scary at all because you're going to be doing a lot of this stuff anyway. So that was really surprisingly not difficult. We use Sherwin-Williams Promar Zero VOC paint. The caulks and everything else were zeros. I should also point out before I forget, when I was introduced, it said the house was 40% better than baseline. It's actually 56% better. And if they had gone with the mini splits, it would have been 68%. So I just want to clarify that. But, I think I did point out that we have no seams on the countertops as a wellness, a healthy thing, touchless faucets, lever handles, those kind of smart things. We have lots of natural daylighting for circadian rhythm, LED lights, and, correctly colored ones. We would love to get the smart ones that change with the circadian rhythm throughout the day. That's the ultimate goal. Currently, they're a little expensive to do. I would suggest if someone wants, they should look at this Indoor Air Plus checklist. I'm sure you can just download that from the EPA. It goes through about 30 points, 30 different items to look at. And they're ones we try and do in most every home we do. The other key thing, I guess, would be to have a really great home office, which the upstairs bedroom would be used for. You know, right now you can't get much better than having a good functional home office. And then the air-to-air heat exchanger is key. So that's, you know, that was sized for the house. We have 2 zones of mechanical. So that's that.
Thanks, Nate. How about you, Larry? Do you want to chime in on that? Because I know you did a lot in your home around health and wellness.
Sure. Well, indoor air quality was paramount for me. And so I used, again, like Nate, I used no VOC painting. I used Benjamin Moore's product. And my cabinetry has no formaldehyde, all solid, no particle board whatsoever, all plywood. There's the flooring in the house is, it's a slab on grade. And I wanted to mention, I have a son in a wheelchair. My entire house is orientated for disabilities, but it doesn't look institutional at all. It looks just like a regular house. I eliminated 90-degree angles wherever I could. There's 36-inch doors everywhere. Again, I didn't want it to look like a nursing home. I wanted it to look like a house that everybody could live in, and it does. And in addition to that, there's no drywall in the house. I used a product called Dense Armor Plus, which is a commercial grade gypsum product that uses fiberglass on each side. And the significance of that is simply this. Drywall encourages mold growth because it has paper on the back of it. And anybody who's remodeled has cut under a window or in a wall and found mold growing on the back of the drywall. I went so far as only using fiberglass tape on the wallboard, not even any paper. I used a flooring product that is travertine marble, so it has no VOCs. It's mined out of the ground. It's the lowest grade of marble you can buy. It was very affordable. I bought it for $3.29 a square foot. Some people pay $8, $10 a square foot for ceramic tile, which is a lot more energy intense. I think they're all energy intense. There's embedded energy in every product, but indoor air quality is assured. I'm moving about 1/3 of the air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through my ERV system, and the Zender system has proven to extract perfectly the places where moisture, chemicals, and odors are created in the laundry room, the bathroom, in the kitchen, and bring fresh air. I've been monitoring CO2 levels since day one, and I'm never over more than about 500 unless I have several people in the house. I've been in houses with 2 adults and 2 dogs in a bedroom at night. I've got a portable digital meter where I've seen readings of over 2,200 parts per million. Anything more than about 1,800 you have significant cognitive changes in behavior. Kids start falling asleep in the school. And so I've been very conscious. My VOC levels are under 500 nanograms per liter, and I've measured houses which had as high as 6,600. I use a company called Prism Analytical, and they have a fabulous indoor air quality tests protocol. So I don't know if that answered everything.
Thanks, Larry. I think that was great. Carol and Michael, is there anything you'd like to add for anything that you've done in your home around health and wellness?
There are some things as far as minimizing drywall. Our walls are all plaster, and we try to disturb as few of those as we could. The 17 linear feet of walls we did put in did have sheetrock, so we're not gonna. We weren't purists in trying to do that. But as far as our heating goes, we have no ducts, so we don't have the issues of having to clean out ducts, having things settle in the ducts. So from that standpoint, we have I guess we score well. And we just do simply a lot of fresh air. We didn't have the ERV systems and all those things, but that's where we want to go next. But it really wasn't applicable to our place. So low VOC paints, yes, we do that. But again, ours is fresh air and convection heating. So we're a different type of healthy, I guess.
And I think it's different when you're also building a new home versus renovation. So I know, that also plays into it as well. I'd also like to throw it over to Mark Willey, who's our official moderator for today's discussion, to take over for the rest of the Q&A. Mark has been a big supporter of our GreenBuilt home tour and Illinois Green. He's always making sure to be participating in our annual GreenBuilt home tour to make it a success. So Mark, I'm going to kick it over to you to continue with the Q&A. Thanks, Mark.
Hey, Liz, thanks. I'm reading a lot of the questions here, and the first question goes to Nate. So someone asked Nate, could you tell us what made the home not feasible for electric heat?
You know, the real world challenge of a budget. This is, you know, it's a really great house. This is a young couple, and it was difficult. It's not, you know, we can't assume that everyone just has money to do every single thing we want. This was a very tricky discussion. I wish they had done it, but they chose not to. And I, you know, that's a case study to think about, you know, about having that discussion. I wish they had done it. I wish they had prioritized stuff, but it's not my house. You know, I can only present the info and they make a decision, an informed decision on that.
So I think the summary is it was a client-driven thing and you gave all the options, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is we like to use the mini splits that are the ducted ones. So it is not impossible to swap this thing out down the line. So if it was just kind of wall mounted, that's a whole different story. But these are ducted, so you could put the unit in later. I mean, that's the one saving grace there.
That's a great point. I'm not sure that this was asked, but if it was, you could tell me to move on. Larry, have you been asked about your home, the cost of building the home as compared to what you would say a traditional cost is? If you can elaborate on that.
Sure. We talked about it a little bit, but my house is 2,200 square feet on the inside, about 2,400 on the outside, because my walls are 25 inches thick if you add the brick and the double wall and all this stuff. So I came in at $356,000, which is $161.80 a square foot. Again, I did my own heating and air conditioning, my own electric. So I saved probably $25,000 in labor. But having said that, comparing it to a traditional 2x6 code-built Department of Energy home, I probably spent right around $55,000. So my house came in at $356,000. This house would have been about $300,000. This does not include the land. So I think that answered it.
So I know there was a question on what the square foot, you know, the cost per square foot and all that. I'm not going to tell exactly what this house was. We typically see, you know, it used to be we could say homes were like $250 a foot and maybe higher. All the tariffs that have been put in effect have an actual impact on what we do. And so that $250 went to $300 plus. So we typically see $300 to $400. So that house is somewhere in that range. But, you know, you can go way higher and you can go lower if you're focused on certain things.
Great. And thank you both. I have another question that came up for you, Carol and Mike. Does Oak Park have any input on what can or cannot be done to exterior homes while inside of the historic district?
Good question. I've been on the Oak Park Preservation committee many years ago, and that's been a good debate. There is a strong encouragement to keep within the historic bounds of your given neighborhood. You do have to take your home to the committee. There's a committee decision made with a list of recommendations. It is strongly encouraged that you keep with those recommendations, and I think most people that live out here would do that as a part of being in the Oak Park community. So yes, there isn't an absolute rule, but there is a very, very strong hand at play to watch the homes and encourage them to be renovated accordingly.
So we once heard a saying, "Win in Rome," but the saying today is "Win in Oak Park," right?
I would say that, and I would also say, you know, you want to respect your neighbors, and you want them to respect you. So, doing the right thing is always the right thing to do.
Yeah, a streetscape is often important, as is the historic. So I appreciate that you provided that. I think people get it now.
Thank you.
This one is back over to you, my friend. Nate, can you speak more on pursuing Indoor Air Plus certification?
I think I did mention that you can get that document. It's like a 20 to 30 bullet point document online. So it's, again, pretty straightforward. I don't know that I want to get into all the things, but when you look at it, you're like, yes, of course I'll do that. You know, and some of this stuff doesn't apply because we don't have an attached garage, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's better if someone just downloads this. Maybe I could put the link in the chat box. That'd probably be a good idea.
No, but I like to say what you said was perfect. When someone sees this link and goes through the question, what you said was, of course you want to do this, and that's a perfect point. So if Nate shares the link, we have time for another question going back to Carol and Mike. Could you tell us why you chose the glass block windows for the basement area?
Sure, that's kind of going back a little bit what Carol was talking about. The front of the house is very, very important to the Historical Society and the powers to be. These were on the sides of the home, so it's not really apparent from the front, and it becomes a matter of two things: perimeter security, because you do have to have the place secured. Other people would have bars, and if someone's going to look by and see the glass block, well, they're going to respect that a little more than just maybe a window. Someone may be more inclined to go through a window. And another thing is we have the nice little 4x8 fence that we can keep open during the summertime and get great ventilation. I don't want to have a window cracked in the basement, because that's just asking for trouble. So, and the last thing was the glass block. Actually, not a lot of people like glass block. The glass block has about the same value as a double pane window. So we're really not losing anything. With that.
So it was a safety decision. It was a practical decision, and your energy wasn't shifted. So everyone was happy.
Exactly.
Boy, you answered that question better than I did.
I've been in your seat before. So my friend Larry, can you sum up for us a takeaway or advice that you would like the audience to have from you and from your experience, so that they can apply that to their decisions and their way of building?
Okay, well, regarding building a high performance, low energy and healthy indoor air quality house, there's so many decisions that we have to make. I've built 3 of them now. I built all of them differently. This is my very first steel house ever. It was different, but it really wasn't tremendously hard, other than attaching things to steel is difficult. The steel is made 20 miles away from here. The lowest recycle count that they use is 36%, and they go all the way to 70% recycle. So there's an inherent penalty for building with steel because it transfers energy. But if you use physics to put a separation, again, I used no foam. I used foam below the concrete, but I used no foam because of its petroleum distillate origin, as well as its fireproofing. But the takeaway I can tell you is I built an all concrete house, which had a brick exterior and a wood interior wall. Heating and cooling that house was amazing, even better than this house. It's 3,200 square feet, and they're in their 5th year without any energy costs whatsoever. And they have a smaller solar system than I do. However, an all concrete house, there is a huge potential for high moisture levels all the time. And so you have to take heroic steps in a ventilation system as well as a dehumidification system. And traditional dehumidifiers add heat to the structure. They're noisy. You got blowing wind all the time. So I'm not saying it's not an overcomable, it is overcomable, but there's definitely considerations in that. And then the third one I've built was a double wood wall, which is a whole lot easier to find carpenters that will work and not charge you exorbitant amount of monies to do. So I can tell you this, I believe the future is going to be a form of panelized construction. I think that buildings that are built inside of controlled environments with $20 an hour people instead of $100 an hour people. I think ultimately the high performance, low energy house will become, it won't even be a decision. It's gonna be the way we all build. And again, I know I've only built a handful. I've built 300 traditional houses since 1991. I've only built 3 net zero houses. So I'm not really an expert or an authority on it, but I think that that's the trend. And one thing I wanted to mention, labor rates in Indiana, when Nate talks about $300 to $400 a square foot, a typical 2-story home in where I live sells for about $142 a square foot, including the land, okay? And I'm only 44 miles away from Chicago.
Yeah, but it's worlds apart with the codes and everything, which are changing, thank God. But, you know, in Chicago, in the Chicago area, things are, you know, Romax versus conduit, et cetera, et cetera. So there's.
I use conduit in my own home, and I overbuild everything. Everything I overbuild. And I still managed to do it for $161 a square foot, minus profit. So let's call it $200 a square foot. It's still a different world than you live in. And I have to point that out because I get people calling me all the time from places like Durango, Colorado, or Vermont, because I sell for Zender, and their typical construction costs are sometimes over $500 a square foot for a traditional built house.
Yeah. No,
So that's a brilliant summary, Larry. You're a good friend. I love your passion, and we all know when you get to roll up your sleeves and you apply the work yourself, the labor has changed, and every market has a different labor. So your advice on panelization and offsite is brilliant, and your knowledge for air quality is unfounded in the industry. So your house is great, and we appreciate the added tip.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We have a question, and my phone just got goofy, so we'll go back. Carol and Mike, I want to ask you basically the same thing as Larry, and this is important for people. What are the tips that you can pass on for people so that they can start where you finished and they can make their process enjoyable and achieve the level that you all achieved on your project?
Well, I would start out by saying that as Scott said after our presentation, there are a lot of little things that people can do. You don't have to do the whole project all at once. Just take step by step and do what you can and what's available to you. Michael, with his lighting background, brought in the motion sensor lights, which saved us cutting open so many old plaster walls that would have made a mess, destroyed the plaster, so many different things. Just look at your outlets. Where could you replace lights? Install the Energy Miser power protectors. I know for years we've been talking about programmable thermostats. Now we've got smart thermostats. Take it step by step and just try to do a few things that are available to you, and it will help everyone.
Wonderful.
Water is another one. Just simply with the plumbing. Water. Conserving water. Change out your faucets. Change out your shower heads. Change out your toilets. and just that, because that is a resource maybe Lake Michigan's really high right now, but that's not the same all the way across the country.
Yes, water sense. Nate, we're running out of time here. Can you, in your words of wisdom, give us a takeaway to end up the wonderful GreenBuilt Home Tour 2020?
Wow. Well, I think it was interesting to be part of the wellness aspect of this, but they're all interconnected. It's high performance, it's resilient design, it's high performance with wellness, and it's new and existing homes. And you got to fire it on all cylinders. I mean, this is a big problem that we're all trying to solve, and everyone's got to be in any which way they can be. So I think the three of us today were wildly different viewpoints, but all focused on the same goal. So that's what I would leave you with.
So everybody's in, and everybody's into Illinois Green Alliance, and we all need to have more friends, volunteers, and changes in our community to make GreenBuilt Home Tour part of society, municipalities, and code. Thank you, folks.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for all of our presenters and all the questions, for everyone putting those into our chat and our Q&A. If we weren't able to answer your question today, we'll follow up after the program. But now I'd like to close things out. So thank you all again for attending, and thank you to all of our speakers, sponsors, and partners for supporting this entire series and sharing your expertise. We appreciate all the additional time and preparation that everyone put into the 2020 GreenBuilt Home Tour, because obviously we had to transition to make this a virtual event. So we definitely appreciate all that additional work as we transition from in-person to virtual. And a big shout out to my colleague, Ashley Marinko, who's been working on the back end tirelessly through the entire series, coordinating the logistics to make it all happen. We hope you all have learned something that you can take back to your own home or business and apply in the near future. And again, we'll be sending out a follow-up email before the end of the week with the recording and links to learn more. So that is a wrap on our GreenBuilt Home Tour 2020 series. Thank you again, and have a wonderful evening.
See you in 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next year.